and we'll get started.
Thanks, Michael. Sorry that we're late. We just finished up the video session with the group, and we talked after the game against Germany about it being a great learning experience for us. And, we sat in the locker room right there and processed the game, got a lot of feedback from the players, gave them our feedback, but overall, really good learning against a top-class opponent. I think the couple takeaways are, a team like that's extremely good on the ball, extremely talented offensive players, is moments where our defensive shape needs to be absolutely rock solid. The execution of our movement in pressing has to be solid. And when it's not, they can exploit you. And we saw that happen against Germany. And then as we move lower onto the field, just the organization of defending in and around the penalty box has to be there. It's not about the back four. It's about collectiveness. It's about 7 players, 8 players getting into position, having those good lines that's difficult to break through. And on the goals, our lines weren't connected enough and weren't clear enough, and it made open space for Germany. So that's against the ball. With the ball, really good moments of disorganizing them. And then for me, it's about picking out the moments when we attracted them to one side of the field and how quickly can we move the ball to the other side of the field and exploit open space. When we did that, we created chances. When we didn't do that, we got locked into one side. And lastly, in and around the penalty box, I think there were too often early crosses when we didn't have numbers in the penalty box, and I think that's the time where we have them a little bit on the ropes, a little bit back, and we need to take advantage of maintaining the ball, waiting for the right opening to exploit. And I think we crossed the ball, let them off the hook too easily. So good experience for us. I think Germany is a team that's going to be is always difficult to play. When you look at their numbers from the last World Cup, they dominate possession in every game they play in. And it was a good opportunity for our guys to compete against a good opponent.
We'll start with Stephen Gott from the Washington Post.
Greg, thanks. Turning the page, looking forward,
Yeah.
How is this game different? And along those lines, what about personnel changes, absences, things you might want to try to do differently?
Personnel, we may make a few changes, but for us, it's about continuing on with how we do things and trying to improve in these areas. Ghana still has world-class players, is an experienced international team, and played in the last World Cup. So for us, it's about how do we take what we learned from Germany and apply it against Ghana, and specifically, in possession, how are we taking up good positions, have good structure in our offensive game, and then defensively, doing the small things, getting our pressure right and our shape right, especially in the defensive third.
Megan.
Hi, Greg. Meg Swanek. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the midfield specifically against Germany. You started Gio, West, and Musa. How did you intend to use them? Do you feel it was effective? And is there anything you want to trial differently in tomorrow's game? Yeah,
in Germany, we started with defending in a 4-4-2. And with Gio higher, and then we had a midfield 2, and I thought that there was time we weren't connected enough. I think we got a little bit too man-orientated on their attacking midfielders. We want our midfielders with a nice, strong connection with each other, and we didn't always have that. I thought in possession, for me, it was about how do we keep the guys central? How do we really try to attract the German opponents? We're good enough on the ball to receive balls under pressure and really draw in that pressure to find open spaces. I didn't think we did that regularly enough. But in terms of output, I think Gio got into some really good positions in his 45 minutes, made some key passes that led to goal-scoring opportunities, and that's something we want to build on.
Yeah, Greg, Ben Wright. I'm curious for your thoughts on Flo's involvement. Do you feel like he has been involved enough kind of just in around the box and in build-up? And if not, how do you make that more of an emphasis without changing too much in the attack?
Yeah, for me, it's about just looking for him. He made some really good runs, and can we get him? Can we find him with runs behind the back line? Germany had, they had one weakness. I think it was some pace in the back line, and we didn't exploit that enough with Ballo. And then in the penalty box, there were some moments where he was close. But just a little bit unlucky on the ball that Christian shoots. If Christian lets it go, it's a tap in for Ballo. He gave that good pass to Christian that led to that the play that could have been a penalty. So he had some involvement, but I think we just got to get him more active.
Welcome, Greg, to Nashville. Claudio Villalobos from Nashville Noticias and Nashville Total Sports. It seems like during the Germany game, which you already explained a lot of stuff that happened, this low pace didn't work on your favor. I mean, it seems like under your reign, the U.S. always played a very faster paced game. Was that because of the opposition or just something the guys didn't want to do that you told them?
Well, it's interesting. It's Germany has a very good offensive structure and is very patient, and that by nature slows the game down. When you look at our distances in the game, it's true. Our intensive distance, high-speed running was down, and a lot of it because they had 60% possession, and we had to keep a really organized shape. It is a thought to think of, to dwell on. If we want to be a higher pressing team against a team like Germany, do we want to be more active and less preventative? And that's something that we discuss in the coach's office. But either way, I think Germany does an excellent job of controlling games that makes it difficult for the opponent.
To your left.
Are you going to change the way you play against Ghana tomorrow?
I think we have a way to play, and we're going to continue to play our way. And we want to try to be dominant on the ball. We want to be strong defensively, high pressing, and so I'd expect to see that.
Steve.
Greg, how would you describe how Eunice's role and responsibilities change when Tyler's not on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the game against Germany, Weston and Eunice had similar roles. They're supposed to be connected in central midfield, and I think that's what it was, especially when we're defending in a 4-4-2. When we moved to 4-3-3, it was more, Luca, Weston, and Eunice were supposed to be shifting together and supposed to be connected as a line. And I think, overall, it was that lack of execution that I think, hurt all of them. Not just Eunice. I think it made it more complicated for them in the game. But he's good at winning balls. He's good at passing the ball. He's good at receiving balls in tough spaces. So I think he fills in nicely.
Chris.
Greg, welcome to Nashville.
Thank you.
Harris at the NBC station
Hey,
here.
Chris.
What do you think of the venue here, and what have you heard about the atmosphere in this place?
Yeah, I was here for the Leagues Cup final. Fantastic atmosphere. I've been to the regular season game here as well. Nashville is a great place for soccer. It's a great stadium. We're looking forward to playing here tomorrow in front of the fans. The fans are excellent here. And just another example of, growing soccer cities in the United States. When you think about Atlanta and Austin and certainly Nashville, those are some of the newer cities that come to mind with fantastic atmospheres.
Chris kind of stole mine, but to just kind of piggyback off that, when fans are coming in and they get to see you maybe once every 2 years or something like that, what do you hope Nashville fans and the crowd here see from your club tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think it's a chance to see the best players in the United States play together against a really good opponent. And just, international soccer is a different game than club soccer, and it's great for the fans to be able to preview this, especially before the World Cup on our home soil. And I know Nashville has great fan support, great facilities, both training facilities and stadium, and we hope that the fans come out tomorrow to see us.
We'll take a few questions from those joining virtually, and we'll continue with Paul Tenorio.
Thanks, Michael. I'm going to do two questions here. Sorry, Greg. The first is just to follow up on what you mentioned about the defensive structure with the midfield. What do you ascribe that to? Is it just more communication between Eunice and Weston and the midfielders in the back line, especially in defending in and around the box? Is it just kind of being more disciplined in the roles that you had talked about before the game and how to defend? And then on the flip side, on the attacking end, you talked about maybe serving crosses too early. You had mentioned that some of the runs that that Balogun does well are similar to the back shoulder runs you saw a lot of in Columbus when you were coaching. Is there an idea that you have there and kind of how you want the service to look or what you want the team to do when they are getting in behind the line like Tim did a bunch against Germany, getting in behind and looking for those crosses? What do you want to be able to complete those attacks that maybe you didn't do against Germany that you can build on moving forward because of what Ballo does and what Tim does? Thank you.
Yeah, I think Ballo is extremely dangerous when we have controlled possession in around the penalty box, making those small little runs behind the back line, and also build up from midfield. When we're at midfield, him the ability to stretch the field and get behind the back line, and it's just looking for them. Against Germany, when they released with their fullbacks, they were 1 versus 1 on the back line, and that was a great opportunity for Ballo, for us to activate Ballo behind the back line. In terms of the defensive organization, it's really just getting your shape and getting into those block, a block of 4 and 3 or 4 and 4, and staying disciplined with that. It's communication. We had times where we had midfielders moving onto the back line. There's a big gap in front of the back line because of that. And, examples where midfielders are tracking attacking mids, running through, where center backs can pick them up. I think it was somewhat of lack of communication that led to that. But again, when it happens at a higher speed, it's more challenging, and that's why we really are taking a lot from this game, because you're playing against some of the best attacking players in the world, and you have to be prepared. You have to be communicating, and it happens in an instance. And the speed of that was really, really good to see.
Next is Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
Hey, Greg. I wanted to check, have any rules or procedures been put in place to prevent player relatives and families from lobbying the coaching staff in U.S. soccer for playing time like we saw at the World Cup? Or do you think that was an anomaly and no procedures need to be put in place additionally?
That's something that U.S. soccer leadership is discussing, and as of now, nothing's been put in place.
Next will be Henry Bushnell from Yahoo.
Thanks, Michael. Greg, appreciate your time. At your post-match press conference on Saturday, you spoke about how one of the lessons from that game was that against teams like Germany, the game needs to be a bit tighter. It can't be that open. Did you go into that game wanting it to be open and end-to-end to see what that would look like against a top opponent, or was that more so just a result of on-field decisions and how things played out on the fly, especially when possession changed hands?
No, I think that the openness comes from lack of positioning, lack of structure while we're attacking. I think it's interesting that when you have guys trying to interchanging position, you lose shape sometimes, and that's what happened. When I talk about openness, it's mostly in transition moments, and that's where we needed to improve. There are moments where we have a corner attack or an offensive threat, and they end up coming down to our end. And that's positioning while attacking. I think we cleaned that up towards the second half a bit more. But, it's certainly something that we need to be aware of, because you can't give up chances. Your shape needs to be good at all times in games like that.
Next is Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. 2 questions for me as well, Greg. You mentioned earlier the feedback that you got from players after the Germany game. I mean, what did they see? What did they say to you on second look? And, you were part of the team, the World Cup team in 2006 that lost to Ghana, the first of, three meetings at consecutive World Cups against them. How aware is the current group of that history? Does it add anything at all to this, or is that more just something that media, people like me talk about? Curious your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Well, it is unusual that we met them 3 times in consecutive World Cups, and it does add to, I think, a little bit of the legacy of our rivalry. But those are World Cup games, and it is somewhat different. But in terms of the feedback from the players, it was really trying to extract what we learned from this game, because part of it, or a lot of it is we want to be able to beat top teams. So we say, okay, if that is the premise, how are we going to do that? Because we're a good bit off of it in that game. And what are we going to do? What's important? And it comes down, I think, from the players' feedback, it comes down to the moments, the focus in every single moment. Against top teams, you're 2 passes away from getting scored on every time they have the ball. and you need to be really focused, really dialed in, and when you're not, you get punished. And I think that is a really good learning experience for us. Part of the defensive work and shape is, again, similarly, if you're not focused, if you're not preventing passes, they'll access the passes that you don't want them to, and you get hurt.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everyone. Mix zone is now open.